kept a secret from Katniss Everdeen, but what was it really? Was it love, sacrifice, betrayal, or all three? Before we can uncover the hidden meaning behind Cinna, we first need to understand his role in the trilogy. This analysis is based primarily on book canon, along with some theories derived from it. And in many ways, the books remains the truest version of the story. Sometimes, the films flatten what the books explore in greater depth. Cinna is introduced to us as Katniss' stylist, yet Suzanne Collins never tells us exactly where he comes from. However, one thing we can theorize with some confidence is that Cinna was connected to and likely recruited by Plutarch Heavensbee. But the real question is when? At what point did Cinna join the rebellion? If we consider what we later learn about Plutarch, that he has been quietly gathering rebels in preparation for a second uprising since at least the 50th Hunger Games, then Cinna's presence beside Katniss begins to feel far less accidental. A stylist in the capital is not simply a designer. A stylist controls how tributes are presented to the entire nation of Panem. Through clothing, symbolism, and spectacle, a stylist can shape how the audience sees a tribute, and that power matters. The districts needed something to believe in, a symbol they could hold on to, something powerful enough to ignite the possibility of rebellion. And the person capable of creating that symbol would not only be a victor, it could also be a stylist, because Cinna's designs for Katniss were never just fashion, they were a quiet act of rebellion, carefully crafted messages sent to both the district and the capital. So let's meet Cinna. When we first meet Cinna, something about him immediately stands out. Unlike most stylists in the capital, Cinna has no visible surgical alterations. Capital fashion culture is heavily centered around extreme self-modification. Many stylists alter their bodies dramatically to follow trends or display status. One well-known example is Tigris Snow, whose failing appearance is the result of extensive surgical enhancement. However, her case is complicated. We don't know whether her transformation came from obsession, punishment from Coriolanus Snow, or perhaps her own quiet form of rebellion, a way of turning herself into something the capital can't fully control. Cinna, however, is different. When Katniss observes him, she immediately notices that he looks remarkably natural. Compared to the stylist she has seen interviewed on television, he does not dye his hair, even though dyed hair is almost a defining fashion statement in the capital. His hair is cropped short and appears to be its natural shade of brown. The only concession to self-alteration is a thin line of metallic gold eyeliner applied with a light hand. It blends with his green eyes rather than overpowering them. According to Katniss, he's simply attractive, natural, and in the capital, natural is almost rebellious. The first question he asks Katniss is surprisingly personal. Who did your hair? Katniss tells him it was her mother, but here is the detail that matters. Before Katniss even meets Cinna, her prep team has been specifically instructed not to touch her hair. That instruction could only have come from Cinna himself. Why would a capital stylist care about something so small? Because Cinna likely watched the ripping. He saw Katniss volunteer for her sister, and he understood that the audience needed to remember that image. Sometimes a hairstyle can make a memory stick in the public imagination before any other features, and by complimenting Katniss' hair and crediting her mother's skill, he also creates an immediate point of thrust. He tells her it's beautiful, classic really, and in almost perfect balance with your profile. She has very clever fingers. That comment stays with Katniss. It leads her to ask if he's new. Cinna confirms this is his first year in the games. Katniss is unimpressed. From her perspective, new stylists are usually assigned to the least desirable district, District 12, but Cinna calmly reveals something surprising. He asked for District 12. And that one line changes everything because it means Cinna's presence beside Katniss was never accidental. It was intentional and planned. Before the games begin, Cinna spends time getting to know and understand Katniss. This deepens her trust in him, and it also shows that he's not treating her like a project. He's treating her like a person. Traditionally, tributes wear outfits that represent their district's industry. District 12 tributes are therefore expected to wear coal mining costumes, but over the years, those costumes had become humiliating. Sometimes tributes were paraded naked, covered in black coal dust. Other times, they wore miners' baggy jumpsuits or skimpy outfits with helmets and headlamps. By the time the parade ended, the audience had already decided District 12 was forgettable. No one rooted for them, but Cinna brings in an entirely different perspective. Instead of focusing on coal mining, he focuses on coal itself. He tells Katniss, instead of coal miners, what about coal itself, and what do we do with coal? We burn it. Then he asks, you're not afraid of fire, are you, Katniss? This idea was genius, because Cinna was not simply designing a costume, he was creating a symbol. On the surface, the fire represents District 12's coal industry, but on a deeper level, fire represents power, transformation, danger, and rebellion. Katniss did not fully understand this at the time. She was 16 and simply trying to survive. But to Cinna and perhaps to Plutarch and the rebels watching from the shadows, this may have already been the beginning of something much bigger, the beginning of the girl on fire, which raises an uncomfortable question. Even this early, was Cinna already using Katniss? Suzanne Collins never tells us where Cinna comes from, so we are left with possibilities. I have like 4 theories. Theory 1, a capital orphan. Cinna may have been from the capital, but an orphan with nothing left to lose. Oppression existed even inside the capital. Coriolanus Snow famously eliminated threats through poison to secure power. Cinna's family may have been touched by that system. If so, Cinna could have grown up hating the capital and everything it represents. He may have been trained as a stylist and used fashion as a quiet rebellion. Not because rebellion was fashionable, but because it was personal. And here is where another layer becomes possible. What if Tigris secretly trained him? Tigris is one of the few capital citizens who shows lasting moral fracture. Someone who may have understood Snow's cruelty before most people did. If she mentored Cinna, it could explain both his skills and his moral clarity. It could even explain why District 12 stood out to him, because of Snow's history with it and because of how neglected and underestimated it was. And choosing District 12 makes strategic sense. It was the least desirable district, meaning any change would be immediately noticeable. Plutarch may have approached him after the girl on fire moment, or Plutarch may have recruited him during his training with Tigris, since we know he knew her as an old acquaintance. Theory 2. Another possibility is District 1, the luxury district known for craftsmanship. Cinna's extraordinary design skills could fit this background. However, District 1 generally benefits from the capital system, making a rebel or even a district sympathizer less likely. There is still a possibility if we base it only on his glamorous fashion skills. But what about the Mockingjay armor, helmet and other combat fashion styles, and the rebellious courage behind them? This begins to weaken the possibility. Theory 3. District 12 roots. Another possibility is District 12 itself. District 12 has a history of quiet rebellion. Families like Hamish Abernathy's are known for defiance against the capital. We also know about the Covey, musicians who settled in District 12 and represented a culture the capital disapproved of. Could Cinna share that route? During the timeline of the 50th Hunger Games, members of the Covey such as Clark Carmine, Tam Amber and Lenore Dove are mentioned, but Cinna is not. So this possibility remains weak, unless he was an orphan adopted or deliberately written out of the record, but it still doesn't explain Cinna's experience in art and craft, or how he would have developed his training and skills. Theory 4. A District 13 connection. The final possibility is that Cinna had ties to District 13 and perhaps he was also a trained soldier responsible for ammunition and uniform design. District 13 had been preparing for war for decades. A rebellion would not only need soldiers and engineers, it would also need designers capable of producing propaganda, symbols, and even functional technology through clothing. Cinna's design suggests advanced materials and planning. He created costumes that ignited without burning. He designed the wedding dress that transformed into a Mockingjay, and before his death, he secretly created the Mockingjay combat uniform for Katniss, including the ammunition concept, the helmet, and even the nightlock pill idea. That suggests Cinna understood the rebellion's long-term strategy. So if Cinna already knew the rebellion was coming and that Katniss would become his symbol, then his relationship with her becomes complicated. Which brings us back to the central question. Did Cinna betray Katniss, or did he keep her in the dark out of love and the need to protect her in case she was caught? And to answer that, we need to look deeper. Cinna sees his job as making District 12 tributes unforgettable. Just before their chariot rolls out into the streets of the capital, Cinna explains his plan to Katniss Everdeen. Their costumes will be set on fire, but the fire will not burn them. Cinna tells Katniss that he wants the audience to recognize her later in the arena as Katniss, the girl who was on fire. He also signals for Katniss and Peter to hold hands during the chariot parade. Later, Hamish Abernathy confirms that this was the perfect touch of rebellion. Two tributes united and in flames, a touch of power in love and unity and a spark of rebellion. But Katniss, being so young, does not read a deeper meaning into it. Instead, she says she feels strange about the way Cinna links her and Peter together. It does not seem fair to present them as a team and then lock them into the arena where they may eventually have to kill each other. But regardless of that strange feeling, Katniss loves the result. She says, "Cinna has given me a great advantage. No one will forget me. Not my look, not my name, Katniss, the girl who was on fire." And that moment changes everything, because Katniss is no longer just another tribute from District 12. She has become a symbol, and the person who created that symbol was Cinna. Katniss loved Cinna's design and it made her hopeful. She believed that even if she did not say much during her interview, the outfit would make her look so wonderful that no one would really care about what she said. And in many ways, it really came to her rescue. The second outfit was described as being made with gems, red, yellow, and white with beads of blue accenting the tips of the flame design. Katniss describes herself as being engulfed in tongues of fire, radiant like the sun. Before the interview, Cinna asks her to twirl so she can see what the dress can do. In that moment, Katniss already understands the effect the dress will have before she even wears it in front of the audience. But something else happens here that tells us more about Cinna's role. When Cinna asks Katniss if she's ready for the interview, she notices from his expression that he has been speaking with Hamish Abernathy. We are never told the details of that conversation, but from this we can infer something important. Cinna's role did not end with being a stylist. He also helps prepare her emotionally. He encourages Katniss to simply be herself, to speak to the audience the way she would speak to a friend. Then he asks her a question: who would your best friend be? Katniss responds, Gail Hawthorne, but she quickly asks that she would never talk about these kind of things with Gail. Cinna then asks another question: what about me? Could you think of me as a friend? Katniss says she thinks so. And that moment is important because it suggests that Cinna is not just a stylist, he becomes a friend to Katniss. But that also raises the reader's expectations. Friends are open with each other. Friends do not lead each other blindly. So this raises another question. If Cinna truly cared about Katniss as a friend, why did he keep so many things from her? Was it out of love? Was he trying to protect her? Or did he believe that she did not need to know the full truth? And that question brings us back again to the central mystery. Was it really a betrayal? During the interview with Caesar Flickerman, when he asked Katniss about her sister Prim, Katniss notices something important. Cinna looks noticeably sad. Katniss even says she does not think she's imagining the sadness on his face. This is an interesting moment because it shows that Cinna is not emotionally detached from what is happening to her. He understands what the games will cost, not just to Katniss, but to the people she loves. Another revealing moment happens when Peter confesses his love for Katniss on live television. Katniss is furious, but Hamish is even more angry at her reaction. He explains how foolish she's been and tells her that Peter has just given her something she could never have achieved on her own: sponsors. Hamish asks her a blunt question: who do you think will get you more sponsors, the boy back home or this whole act? Cinna agrees that Hamish is right, but Katniss does not like the idea of being kept in the dark. She says, I don't know what to think. I should have been told so I didn't look so stupid. From my own understanding, they kept it from her for a reason. At that point, they were still learning who Katniss really was, and what they eventually realized is that Katniss performs best when something is real, not when she's acting. If she had known about Peter's confession beforehand, she might have tried to perform it and the audience would have seen through it. But when her reaction are genuine, people believe her. Cinna seems to understand this about Katniss very early on. There is also another small but important moment before the games begin. Before Katniss enters the arena, Cinna gives her the Mockingjay pin that he had removed from the green dress she wore on the train. He asks her, is your district token right? Katniss says yes, and that is how Katniss takes the pin into the arena. At the time, it seems like a simple gesture, but in hindsight, that small decision will become far more significant than anyone could have imagined. During the interview for the 75th Hunger Games, President Snow orders a specific dress for Katniss to wear. According to Cinna, it is the wedding dress, the one the Capitol audience voted for her to wear for the proposed wedding with Peter. But Cinna makes some alterations to it. He tells Katniss it has something to do with the lighting. Then he gives her a strange instruction. Katniss, because this bodice is so fitted, I don't want you raising your arms above your head. Well, not until you twirl. Katniss asks if she will be twirling again. Cinna replies that he is sure Caesar will ask her to twirl, and if he does not, she should suggest it herself, but not right away. Save it for the big finale. Katniss then asks Cinna to give her a signal for when to twirl, and this moment shows just how much she trusts him. Katniss never asks what the dress will turn into. She trusts Cinna completely, but this also raises a difficult question. Was it all manipulation for the sake of an end result? Because Katniss never truly had the choice of whether she wanted to wear that dress or what it would represent. Just as before, when Cinna revealed what her earlier dress could do, she was not fully aware of the symbolism he was creating around her. She never knew the quote-unquote dress would transform into the Mockingjay, the symbol of rebellion, and this was a significant piece of information that was deliberately withheld from her. But Cinna may have seen the situation very differently. Perhaps he did not show her what the dress could do because demonstrating it beforehand would have ruined the effect. Still, even if that were the case, an explanation could have sufficed. At that point, Katniss was being sent back into the arena for the 75th Hunger Game. So perhaps, being deeply invested in the rebellion, he believed that if this moment could stir up an uprising in the district, then it was better than doing nothing at all. But that still does not fully excuse keeping her in the dark. Katniss is a person and she never consented or was given the opportunity for informed consent. Was it protecting her and the rebellion in case she was captured and punished, thereby risking the entire plan? Possibly, but awareness still matters. Because of that moment, the girl who was once the girl on fire became something even greater, the Mockingjay, a symbol of hope and resistance for the district. And the truth is that Katniss eventually understands that Cinna did this for her. He sacrificed himself so that she could see what she's capable of becoming. Cinna once said, "Don't worry, I always channel my emotions into my work. That way, I don't hurt anyone but myself." And in the end, that is exactly what happened. Just before Katniss is launched into the arena, Cinna is dragged away and beaten by peacekeepers in front of her. That is the last time she ever sees him. Suzanne Collins never writes the full extent of what happened to him, but we know his story ends there. Cinna died for the rebellion, and Katniss later agrees to become the Mockingjay partly because of him. Cinna had even made Plutarch Heavensbee promise not to show Katniss his designs for the Mockingjay armor until she chose to become the symbol on her own. Underneath the sketches of the Mockingjay suits, Cinna wrote a simple line, "I'm still betting on you." Cinna also asked that Katniss be reunited with her original prep team because he knew she cared about them, and that tells us something important about Cinna. He understood Katniss. Cinna was love. He gave Katniss the chance to survive. His actions can be viewed both as a betrayal of trust and as an act of love. Everything he did was driven by both love for Katniss and the need for rebellion. Yes, he led her blindly at times, but perhaps he did that because he knew Katniss performs best when things are real, not when they are carefully planned. If he had told her everything beforehand, the result might not have been the same. Maybe Cinna intended to tell her when the time was right, but he never had that chance. And that is why he made Plutarch promise not to show her the Mockingjay designs until she chose that role for herself. Cinna died believing in her, and his final goodbye remains one of the most painful moments in the entire trilogy. Thank you so much for watching. If you made it this far, don't forget to subscribe, and I will see you in the next video.